All right, we're back.
Hey, we are back. Welcome to another amazing episode of Talking Upstream, the beautiful culmination of creativity and positivity. Once again, we are your host. We are some nobodies. My name is Zach. This is Dylan over here, and we create stuff. We make a bunch of weird stuff. You might have heard some of our shows like Silicon Angels or Create Your Own Podventure, possibly a podcast show. But either way, what we do is we talk to people that make stuff and create stuff and bring cool things to life, and we get their version of why they do what they do and what, where their passion lies. Now we have 43 episodes of this on our YouTube channel and obviously the podcast version, so you can go check out all those and see all the weird ideas we've come up with. And one thing that really struck out to me and Dylan recently was, we make up a lot of ideas, we make up a lot of cool concepts, and at the end of it, even off camera, we kind of fan cast our own shows. It's like, oh man, if we had the perfect casting for this. And it dawned on us that we've actually never spoke to anyone in the casting business. So we kind of found, we always have this tier of lists that we like to. It's like, okay, if we want to talk to a director, here's the top 5 directors, and then we get, whoever answers our email. And we had this idea. It's like, okay, what are our top 5 casting directors? And I asked Dylan, like, give me your top 3 favorite shows or movies. And the first one to respond was our number one choice. The thing that Dylan and I talk about all the time right now is Arcane on Netflix. Obviously, The Incredibles, Princess and the Frog. You have amazing things out there, and we just never understood how that process began. So I'm going to let Dylan introduce who our very special guest is for this episode. So, Dylan, please take it away first. How are you? I'm sorry, I'm super excited. I don't really like letting you talk very much.
Oh, you're fine. I don't mind not talking so much. You know how that goes. No, I'm doing fine, Zach. How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm so excited. So excited.
Good.
Yeah.
No, me too. So yeah, this week, let's get into it. Our guest her name is Jen Rudin. I believe I said that correctly. She is an award-winning talent. Well, now she's a talent agent. She was an award-winning casting director. She's currently head of animation at ICM, and she does a whole lot of other stuff. So let's bring her on here. Hello.
Magic.
Miss Rudin, how are you?
I am good. It's snowing in New York today, and it's March, so I'm not very happy about that. But in general, life is good. Life is busy.
Yeah, it is snowing in Colorado, so we have exactly one thing in common so far. That's great. First and foremost, thank you so much for taking your time and doing this stupid little show of ours. It means so much to us, and especially when we get to talk about things that we absolutely love. But quickly, do you want to just tell people like the things that you're most proud of, in your history, what you would like people to know about you?
So I grew up in New York. I'll start. I'm the head of the animation and voiceover department at ICM Partners talent agency. Prior to joining ICM in July 2020, smack in the middle of the pandemic, I spent 2 decades as an award-winning casting director. I am the author of Confessions of a Casting Director, Help Actors Land Any Role with Secrets from Inside the Audition Room, published by HarperCollins, which also is a podcast that I did prior to coming to Disney. And I got my start in New York City as a professional child actor in the 1980s. So I am proud to say I've been in show business for really my whole life, as an actor, as a casting director, and now as an agent. And I still find it to be a very exciting business to be in. No day is boring. Every day is different. Lots of highs and lows.
Oh, that is awesome. And like I said earlier, your name is on credit list of some of our favorite things that we've ever watched and talk about constantly. But how does someone get into, because you've done it for, about 2 decades or whatever you said earlier. I didn't think there was that long of a time span for you to work, but anyway,
You're very, So, it's interesting. The whole time I was auditioning as a child actor, I always hated the audition process. And I would look at the casting director or look at my agent and think, oh, that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably do that when I grow up, because auditioning is such a stressful situation. No one's paying you to go to the audition. You have all your hopes and dreams that you want this part so badly. And I would always look at the casting director and think, like, they seem to have a great job because they're facilitating this very awkward situation and making us feel good. And so I also have a photographic memory, which is really good for, like, I know who replaced who in what Broadway show in the 1980s in New York. And I could remember, I still have a really good memory, except, in the kitchen and where things go in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
But when it comes to business, I have a really, really precise, focused mind that remembers and retains a lot of information, which is a great job for being a casting director or an agent. So I actually, because I was a child actor, when I was in college, I interned for some casting directors. And then when I graduated college, I moved back to New York. I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I graduated and moved back to New York and auditioned for a couple more years, but really didn't have it in me. And so spent a year working at a talent agency, then spent 2 decades in casting, including 7 years at the Walt Disney Company. So 5 years as head of casting for feature animation, thus The Incredibles, Princess and the Frog, Frankenweenie, Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, etc. 2 years at Disney Broadway, overseeing the casting for the domestic tours and Broadway shows for Lion King, Little Mermaid, Tarzan, High School Musical, the tour. And then from 2009 until 2020, I had my own company, Jen Rudin Casting, and I did a ton of animation casting, including Arcane, just the pilot episode of Arcane, and doing more casting for, Disney and Amazon and Netflix. There's a series that's going to come out on Netflix called Dead Endia that will drop probably around Halloween of 2022. I did that series casting, and then came to ICM to bring animation opportunities to the existing clients. So a really exciting job and really fun. And it's been almost 2 years that I've been at the agency.
Yeah, wow, that's
so my life story.
I love it. I love it. It's way more impressive than mine, which is I've moved to Colorado. That's my life story. Now, when it comes to casting, obviously, when you're casting, like, something that you can see the actor, you have a little bit of clout that comes with it because it is a visual memory of something that somebody has. But when casting for animation, I guess my main question, the thing that I really wanted to know is how much of the project do you know before casting for that? Like, say Arcane. Now, I know you did just the pilot. Now, did you know where these characters were going to go when trying to...
Yeah, it depends. Look, every project is different. And so sometimes there is a full script or a full season written. And sometimes in animation, there's just some artwork, right, that they have. And they think that the character is going to look like this. And here's a rough art sketch. And the job in casting animation is to find the right voice to come out of the skull of the animal, right? And I talk about animals a lot because I was at Disney for so many years and there were so many animals. Brother Bear is a good example where we had a lot of different animals to cast. A movie called The Wild that I worked on with Kiefer Sutherland and George Carlin and Eddie Izzard, that was all zoo animals, right? So I always say, what's the right voice to come out of the skull of the animal? And so when it's just animation and you don't have hair and makeup and faces, casting just becomes about the voices, right? Are they telling, what emotions are they conveying in their voice? And does your voice, Zach, sound too similar to Dylan? I couldn't cast you in the same show because you sound too similar. Or, someone's a bass and someone's a tenor, and that'll work out well. So when we're actually in the casting process, people would take an MP3 of somebody and cut to picture, as we used to say, take Alan Cumming is a client of ours, take his voice, cut it to picture of the I was going to say the Labrador or whatever animal, and ask ourselves, is that the right voice that we think to come out of that character? So it's a very different way to do casting. It's very different. And I kind of just fell into it because Disney was looking for a casting director way back in 2002 that knew theater actors. And I got the job because if you look back at some of the good old Disney movies, Lion King, Little Mermaid, it's a bunch of theater Broadway folks voicing those roles. Then it went into this whole period of, celebrity casting, and a lot of things changed. But initially it was because I knew theater actors. And so that's how I ended up with that job. So I kind of fell into animation. I mean, of course, I'm a huge animation fan now. It's been, really a part of my life, but it was just a new area when I got hired back then.
Yeah. I absolutely love
Mhm.
when you watch an animated film and you hear that person's voice and you're like, that's it, that works perfectly. Like for instance, in The Incredibles, you have Greg T. Nelson as
Mhm.
Mr. Incredible, and I think that is probably the most perfect casting for like any animated character, because it does kind of suit the vision that you have of him, but also the emotion of I'm tired. I can do it. I just kind of don't want to do it anymore. Now, when it comes to casting certain people, do you have is there like a thing where it's like you want this person for this role, even though it might not feel like the best, so they kind of change the character for that?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they're really clear with who they want, and sometimes the animators don't know who they want until they hear the voice, which is why it's good when actors will read for those parts, because it helps the animators. They don't, they're animators, they're not Hollywood guys necessarily. So, and by guys, I mean predominantly still men, very much men in the animation space, but animators are their own sort of have their own world going on. And so they may not be so as actually, I'm going to stop because a lot of animators now actually do work in live action. Back in the day at Disney, it was really important to educate our animators on some actors. And, you look at Craig T. Nelson and Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter is a client we represent at ICM. I always say to folks, if you close your eyes and you listen to Holly Hunter's performance as Mrs. Incredible, her acting is so good. It's so real. It could be live action. It's just that she's, stretching and all of that. But the acting and feature animation in that particular movie is so real that you're with them on the journey. I also want to talk about Spencer Fox, who plays Dash in The Incredibles. I mean, he was a 10-year-old kid I knew in New York who had auditioned. He's great, that authenticity, right? That's what we love about that movie. But that acting is not cartoony and like Saturday morning. It's very real and grounded. And that's, I think, why that movie still holds up. The animation now seems very, very dated when you look at the first one. But back then in 2004, when it came out, it was like cutting edge.
It's still a beautiful, heartfelt film. So, and that has a lot to do with the acting. It is perfect acting. Now, if we can hop up to something like Arcane, where you have kind of an existing product, and then you have this new like reiteration of what the universe holds, and you have to kind of sell a brand new product to somebody with an older associated name. Dylan played, the Arcane games, and when the show came out, he was obviously into it, but now, when I watched the show, I didn't know anything about it. And the voice acting, although a lot of the actors I didn't know from anything, perfectly cast. Is there any extra work that goes into like trying to create new property versus like big budget, like Disney films?
I mean, look, Arcane, those guys created the game, the series. They had a very clear idea of what sounds they needed. In fact, it was actually a really pleasurable experience to cast that pilot because they were so clear with who they wanted. So our callbacks, usually when you're doing callbacks and casting, it's like tons of people, and then you're trying to narrow down. Those guys were really narrowed down to their top choices, and that's because they were so crystal clear with what they wanted. And that's not always the case, and rarely the case in casting. A lot of times you're like being very diplomatic. What does the director want? What does the producer want? What does the studio want? And trying to make everybody's dreams come true. And it's a hard job. It's really a hard job. But in that situation, the showrunner, Christian Lank, he knew exactly what he wanted, and just took him a while to make it because animation always takes a long time.
Yeah, that is a gorgeous show.
I know, it's absolutely beautiful. The animation is spectacular out of Paris. We also represent Harry Lloyd, who's in the show, who plays Victor. I mean, it's just a glorious, beautiful animation.
Yeah, something very special about that show. It's like watching like new beautifully painted like pictures just moving around and fighting, just having great character development. Dylan, do you have any questions? I talk all the time.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine. You talked a little bit earlier about when you were casting original Disney stuff, there was a trend of Broadway people and then celebrity people. Have there been any other kind of trends you see moving through casting across the last few years that might be interesting to point out or something to keep in mind? Or if trends affect casting at all beyond
Yeah,
that.
I mean, everybody's, look, we have a huge digital department at ICM. We represent a lot of Instagram, TikTok folks. And, I think sometimes there's a trend to want casting directors now will want to hire people who have big followings. I always like to say just because you have a big following doesn't necessarily mean you're talented, but I'm old, and I care about theater. I don't know, it's every single casting project is different, and working on it now at the agency where we see all these different projects being cast, every single show has a different timeline, different, ideas of what they want. And so there's just no trajectory or clear path with how the casting is going to go. And most of the time, it's like, you don't know until somebody walks in the room. It used to be like somebody would walk in the room and you go, oh my God, that's it. That's the star. And it's the same thing with the voices. You don't know who's going to work until you really hear it.
One of the new trends that I've seen, especially because of how the Mandalorian took off and things in Star Wars, is the idea, and Marvel too, is the idea of like de-aging and kind of changing the age of certain actors. Does that change at all when casting, knowing that you could have an older director that you can digitally make younger just to get the performance? Does that, like, how does that impact casting at all?
I don't quite know what the question is. I do know, I'm not sure. I mean, we try, like, certainly at Disney, we had a situation with Meet the Robinsons where the boys' voices, they were cast at age 11, but they were 14 by the time the movie was going to be done. And so we tried to play around with like making their voice sound younger. But in general, the hope is that you're not going to do your production recording with kids until you're far along and your script is really locked. That was one thing that was always a challenge, was real kids casting and animation, because the girls were, boys' voices. As soon as I could see that their shoe size was getting longer, I'm like, oh, they're growing. I'm going to have to replace them. But thankfully, I'm not a cast director anymore, so I don't have to worry about that as much.
Yeah.
I think if I could reiterate, maybe like the impact of potential, like if someone's playing a CGI character, or if someone is playing a character that is cast at a certain age or is written at a certain age, but you wanted to get an older actor who could be de-aged. Is that ever taken into account in any way, or does the technology not really affect those decisions, or is that something that they directly plan for?
I don't know.
Okay. Something along the lines of, oh man, who's been de-aged? Like any of the large Marvel movies where they de-age Kirk Douglas or something, or Michael Douglas or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, I know like certainly like the hair and makeup, it's like, that's a huge, and mocap, motion capture, it's a whole other area where they can really, make those, do what they need to do to make somebody older or younger looking, which is really a gift and a skill.
One thing that I was always curious about in television, I know that say they write a season or whatever, and then depending on how the audience responds to it, different characters get rewritten or get put into things or taken out of things depending on fan reaction. As a casting director, are you then kind of do you have like insight on how the production is going, or once like the job of that is done, you're kind of hands off until something else?
Usually by the time the actor is cast and contracted, you're really hoping that they don't contact you unless there's some issue. Somebody needs to be replaced for some reason. A child outgrows the role on Broadway. We used to have all that happen at Disney, where the kids would get too tall to be young Simba and Lion King, and we'd have to find new ones. But in general, it's sort of like once you're done with your casting job, it's off to the races with everybody else, and you hope to see everybody at the premiere party. That's the goal. That's the hope.
Now, if we can hop over to awards, you actually won Outstanding Achievement in Casting in 2010 with the Casting Society of America for Princess and the Frog. Now, I took my daughter to see Princess and the Frog, and that became her favorite movie.
That's
great.
great.
She was 8 years old when she watched it, and it was so cool for her to see like that style of people, that style of princess, that style of drawing. What was that production
Oh.
like, having just like, because you're kind of creating a new Disney princess, so
Absolutely.
there's difficulties in that. Would you mind talking about that?
Yeah, so I'm really proud of The Princess and the Frog, and I actually have an entire chapter in Confessions of a Casting Director about animation, and I focus on the casting process for The Princess and the Frog. So it's such a nice story because a lot of times at Disney, there was stuff in development, right? There was a piece of artwork that would be up on the 3rd floor, and it was like too soon to even think about the casting. And what's nice about that story is that at the time, Anika Noni Rose, who voiced Princess Tiana, so she won the Tony Award for Caroline or Change, a beautiful Tony Kushner, Janine Tesori musical in New York. And she was in LA playing the role. And she came to Disney and we had a meeting, as you did back in the days. And I said to her, listen, if we ever have a princess, you know, you are the right voice for it. And cut to a couple months later, as she had wrapped the Dreamgirls movie, she came to audition, and we had some artwork, and we knew that Princess Tiana was in New Orleans in the 1920s, and we needed to find somebody to voice the role who could believably sound like a teenager, and also New Orleans, and also sing. And so she came in and she sang beautifully, and she has an MFA from ACT, and her acting was incredible. And I personally knew deep down that she was the right person for the role. But when you're a casting director, you can't shove your opinion at people because they won't listen, and you can't be like, you have to hire her, because you want to work together. And the job in casting was always to make the directors feel as if you've presented the choices, like a bartender, here are the choices, and they can choose who they want. So I knew she was the best one for the role. Meantime, Alicia Keys auditioned, and Jennifer Hudson ended up being the one that won all the awards when Dreamgirls came out. So she auditioned, and Tyra Banks auditioned, and Macy Gray came, and everybody wanted to be, obviously it was historic to have Disney's first African-American princess, a really fantastic, you know, life-changing opportunity. So we also went to New Orleans to try to find somebody there. We actually found the kids for Charlotte and Princess Tiana were 2 little girls from New Orleans, but we didn't find, you know, the actress. And then The Color Purple was on Broadway. And so Fantasia was in the role, and her understudy standby Montego Glover went on. And so she was in the mix. So we just didn't know who was going to get the part. And at the end of the day, 7 months later from the day she auditioned, Anika got the part. And it was really exciting because I knew deep down at 2 a.m. when I would wake up that she was the right one, but we sort of had to go, you have to really scour and turn over every leaf and, you know, see who's the right voice. And still to this day, you know, there's a photo in my book of Anika and I at the opening, you know, the premiere in LA. It's like, that's a great casting story, because at the end of the day, the person who was most qualified in my mind got the part. And I hear they're doing a TV series at Disney, so hopefully they are. And, you know, I was proud of that movie. I was really proud to be recognized by the Casting Society of America. I also won for Chicken Little, but that one doesn't have as much sort of, you know, my heart was in all those movies, but certainly Princess and the Frog was really special.
Oh, yeah.
And also, may I add that it was Disney's return to hand-drawn traditional animation and the movie musical.
Yeah.
So we had been down the road with computer-generated stuff, and then this was an opportunity to finally go back to sort of what I felt Disney did best at the time, which was the hand-drawn classic Disney princess. So it's thanks. I'm glad that your daughter enjoyed it, and that it made an impact on her.
Oh, so much so. Yeah. I mean, me as a cinephile, I grew up, you know, working in the movie business or industry, and, you know, working at like cinemas and everything else. And when that movie came out, it was such a big deal for my small group. And, you know, like I said, I took my daughter to it. It really sculpted how she went off. That's great. And I was actually about to speak on Chicken Little because, you know, Zach Braff at the time was such a big, like a big deal actor. 2005, you know, like Scrubs was huge. Now looking for the voice of kind of a loved character, which doesn't really have a voice. How did you get down to Zach Braff?
Yeah, it's funny because Zach and I are actually childhood friends. We went to theater camp together at Stage Door Manor. So it was interesting when like all the guys were coming into audition, because it was like, oh, hey, Zach, you know, like we've known each other since we were 12. Yeah, I mean, he got it. You know, he auditioned. He was funny. He sounded, his natural voice was up higher, and he sounded young. And, you know, that was kind of like a vote almost of like, who's the voice. And every time, you know, Zach, like I remember when Chicken Little opened, it had a fairly decent opening, and I called him, and you know, he was like dating Mandy Moore at the time or something. And it was like, I would call him, I'm like, hey, congrats, great box office. And he was like, yeah. And, you know, how are you? And we've just caught up socially. And every time I see Zack, it's always really nice because, you know, it's just like a sweet moment in our friendship that he ended up with that part. But yeah, I mean, that was just, you know, funny guys, right? Who, you know, I can't name who else came in, but just like, you know, who's the right voice there for that sort of, I don't want to say neurotic. That's not the right word for Chicken Little, but, you know, like quirky,
close, yeah.
quirky Chicken Little.
Yeah.
Now with titles under your belt, you know, like Chicken Little, Prince and the Frog, even, you know, Meet the Robinsons, even Rock Dog, which I'm cool. I love that.
Oh, I love that one too.
I love Rock Dog. What kind of movie do you watch? What's your favorite?
I mean, look, I watch everything, and I try to watch everything our ICM clients are in, whether it's one episode. So we have, you know, Alexis Floyd, Anna Klumsky, Laverne Cox in Inventing Anna on Netflix, right? So I'm going to watch that first. And then, you know, I'm such a TV person. I mean, I grew up in the 80s watching TV, and it's my joy now. So I got to check out everything and then sort of make decisions on what I want to watch, right? So in my house, I've got things that I'm doing on my own, things I watch with my husband. I've got animation that I try to watch sort of at lunchtime. I try to, as much as I love animation, I try on the weekends to not be watching animation, to just clear my mind a little bit and watch, you know, scripted shows. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, you know, I'm pretty like you take a couple minutes in, I know whether or not I care about these characters. And I would say too, it's like you either care or you don't. You're either invested or you're not. So I mean, look, at the moment, I'm like, what am I doing in my late night to unwind? I'm in Private Practice season 5. You know, is that something that like, well, we represent Tay Diggs, so I'm always happy to see our clients on the show, and Benjamin Bratt is our client as well. But you know, like that stuff I like to watch. I'm sort of more like half-hour comedies rather than dark dramas. It's just my nature. So, but yeah.
Tay Diggs and Benjamin Bratt. What?
Yep.
That's a sexy clientele list right there.
Those are two of our clients. Yeah.
I would have their posters on my wall. Okay, so one of the last awards you were nominated for was Outstanding Achievement in Casting for a short film called Lucy in the Sky. And doing a little bit of research, you actually wrote that.
I did, yes.
When trying to cast for a character that you created, is that different than just having one that you have somebody else's ideas for, or how did that go?
Yeah, so I was nominated for Rock Dog in 2018, and it's sort of a secret. I did go to grad school in my 40s. I got an MFA in dramatic writing at NYU, and it's very interesting because I actually use my MFA in dramatic writing all the time at my job at ICM because I'm sort of looking at people's pitch decks for animation projects. So it actually did come in handy. And so Lucy in the Sky, thank you. That's sweet that you did so much research. Was actually, I won a Sloan Writing Award. I won a grant from the Sloan Foundation because it was a script about a girl on the autism spectrum and new research that they were doing to try to try out some different medications for her. And so it was part of a full pilot that I'd written. And then we just took some of the Sloan grant money and we made a short film. Whoopi Goldberg was in it. And made a short film and then I got nominated for casting my own short film. So I was also the executive producer. I was also it was kind of an exhausting process. But yeah, it was very, I was very proud of that movie. A lot of diversity casting that, you know, the casting directors were proponents of diversity casting long before it became, you know, actually part of the world that we live in. So thanks for that. Lucy was a great project that,
yeah. It took me a little bit of time to find it. I did watch it. It's a beautiful. It's got a lot of heart to it for an 11-minute short. There's a lot of heart to it. Unfortunately, there is a Natalie Portman movie with the same name, and I'm like, oh my god, she wrote this. Wait, no, that's not it. That's not it. Now I know that there was talks in taking Lucy in the Sky and like making it maybe into like a web series or like a series itself. Is there any more development?
Nothing's really happened. You know, I wear many hats. I think the next book I want to write will be called Everything is Animated, because it's sort of just like everything is animated after, during COVID, in COVID, before COVID. But we'll see about Lucy in the Sky. You know, it's definitely, you know, at this point I would just to be an executive producer on it and let somebody else do the show running because I love my job here. But yeah, you know, it's fundraising for your own movie, I learned so much. I never want to do that again. I certainly never want to have a movie filmed in my own house, because that was definitely something that my husband and I would never. I mean, we just did it because we have a big home in Harlem, but I was like, never again. Cannot have that be happening in our house. It's too much stress. So
great job. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I mean, your whole work, when I looked on the IMDb page and just saw everything, like this name after name, I'm like, wow, Miss Rudin is just into everything, and it's so pretty. And you are married to someone that is also kind of in the business, right? They're an editor of like Dateline, is that correct?
Yep. And my husband's an award-winning Peabody and multiple Emmy award-winning editor for Dateline, which is like a hugely popular show with just a huge fan base. And it's funny, whenever we meet people, it's like people be, oh, Dateline, oh my God, I love it. We also, he's an avid cyclist. I've got a half marathon on March 20th. So we're just like very, I also, represent Tunde Ilyaname, the elite Peloton instructor. She's with us at ICM. She's
Oh no.
Oh no. All right, well, we lost Miss Rudin. Hopefully she'll be back. We had literally one more question.
Damn.
Which was the big question. All right, well, we're just gonna waste a little bit of time here and see if she comes back. But wow, what a great interview.
There she is.
I was sorry about that. I was talking about Tunde, my Peloton instructor client, who, funny enough, I'm on my Peloton. I am on my Peloton. It's like April 2020, and I'm like, wow. Or maybe it was September 2020. Tunde's got this amazing voice. I'd love to see if she has a voiceover agent. So I reached out, not on Instagram, but I reached out to her manager, and she came over to ICM in October 2020. And since then, we did this incredible deal with her for Nike. She has a book coming out on May 3rd called Speak that is phenomenal. Perfect gift for Mother's Day, for graduation. And she is just an amazing woman. So talking about being athletic and balance. So I've got the Peloton. We're cyclists. We're runners in this house. We're very busy.
Wow, so
sounds
busy.
like it.
That's so cool that you could be somewhere and just hear a voice and just say, I want that voice.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about, for me, I have my ear is very attuned to listening, right? So I used to, when I was a cast manager, I would be like at a, hotel or something with my husband, and there'd be some like 10-year-old kid at the table. And I'd be like, oh my God, he's got this great voice. And, and then my husband would be like, Jen, don't be weird. And I'm like, no, but that sound, and I still have it, I'm very attuned. And when you hear texture, like Tunde, that texture that you hear when she's leading those rides, I mean, that's her voice. It's this incredible presence. And so some people have it or don't. And I don't think it's something you can make up. You either have a great, interesting voice or you don't have one. And so,
and Dylan definitely does not. I have no voice. Dylan does not. He has the good eyes.
Not, and I agree with that.
Which is great. Okay, so we're not going to take up any more of your time. Obviously you're very, very busy. You got to hop on that Peloton and work on your marathon.
I got marathon, and if this comes out on March 20th, I want everybody. It's the United Airlines half marathon in New York. I hope that anybody wants to come to Central Park and find me at the finish line. I'm very excited. I also want to say I raised money for Team for Kids, which is an organization through the New York Roadrunners Club that provides money for people, to teachers and gym teachers, to encourage kids and have programming to get them to run and move and love their bodies. And so it's just like, what a great cause. I had to raise exactly, it's a 13.1 mile race, 1,300, and hopefully if I do the marathon and the full marathon in November, that's there'll be $2,600 for the 26 miles. So we'll see how this first one goes.
Right on.
Well, we will officially be rooting for you, and we will shout it from every platform that we have.
Thank you.
Yes, if you're watching this on the 20th, most likely Miss Rudin has won a marathon, and she is celebrating.
Well, you can look at Rudin J is my Instagram handle, so hopefully I'll post some pictures afterwards, and I'm hoping I'll be holding a medal and it won't be snowing. That's my only.
And we'll actually post a link to your Instagram in our show notes for this.
Oh,
that
cool.
Way, if they are watching this or listening to this, they'll be able to go see that real sweaty but excited after the marathon shot. Okay, so we're gonna get down to what we do on this show, and like I told you earlier, what we do is Dylan and myself will both pitch to you an original idea that we've come up with, and then you choose which of the two that you think is worth our time working on.
Okay.
So the one that that I pitched last week, which did not win, and I'm going to carry it over. I had this idea for somebody that's like kind of walking around in the woods, and out of nowhere they start feeling that they have kind of like a secret power. They become like kind of stronger, and it turns out that there's like a hole around them, and when they look in this hole, there is like an alien or like a creature or something that just in proximity gives humans a power, some kind of power, either like strength or floating or something, and then they have to figure out what to do because it's only in proximity of that creature or alien. Don't know yet, but I think that that's worth kind of exploring, thinking like, do you carry this thing around with you just so you have a power? Do you find out what part it is or whatever? So finding a special power in a hole somewhere, I think that's what I would like to work on. I don't have a name for it yet. Whatever.
Okay, Dylan, your turn.
All right. So I always really like the idea of something collectively happening to humanity as a whole and everybody experiencing it at the same time and seeing how you can interpret that. So I had the idea where, what if everybody on Earth one night, or I guess it's not night because it would be around the planet, but at some point everyone has the same vision of, maybe from the point of view of someone pointing at a day and somehow knowing that day is like the day that the world is going to end or change, or it's going to be a day that they can prevent some sort of major catastrophe from occurring. It's like a 30-second from the point of view of someone, and they just see that a specific day, and like it has to be soon enough that you can't super plan for it, but far enough out that it's not immediate. So like in 6 months from now, everybody knows that September 9th, 2022 is going to be the day that the world either ends or is saved by something. And there's no context to it, but everybody experiences it.
So everyone has like a collective dream, kind of? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Either waking dream or sleeping dream. And then how that affects people moving forward. And we would have our characters and stuff, but that's the concept.
Yeah. That's cool.
Okay,
so Miss Rudin, monster in a well or a hole that gives you special powers and you got to deal with it, or one day everyone has a collective dream that lets them know that a one specific day in the future something crazy is going to happen and how they deal with that.
I think I would probably do the monster and the whole thing, just because it seems like you could really like set up your show to have different things happening and different like adventures as they're trying to figure out what to do with this power, or who's going to see the power, or maybe somebody doesn't like to have that power. I think, Dylan, your idea is very cool because it's very meta, right? Very meta, but I feel like day to day on a TV show, probably Zach's is just got like a little bit more up and go and get stories rolling. So,
and honestly, I 100% agree with you, and you're the expert, so you are right.
Well, anyway.
Jen Rudin, thank you so much for taking any time whatsoever and talking to us. We love how your brain works. We love the body of work that you've done, and we love the point of view that you're trying to instill in other people, and that's super great. So we really applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other than your Instagram, which we will have in the show notes, is there anything you would like to tell people to go watch or listen to or anything?
I mean, I think, look, if you're interested in animation and voiceover, you can check out, I can't do my podcast anymore now that I'm an agent, but there's at least 25 episodes of Confessions of a Casting Director podcast with a lot of fun and insightful stuff about voiceover and animation. I would also say, like, anybody that wants to pick up Confessions of a Casting Director, the book, it's just so much great information about auditioning, and there's chapters on musical theater and commercials and, Twitter, and my favorite chapter, which is, well, one of them is don't tweet us, we'll tweet you, which is about technology. And then another chapter I love, which is just like New York versus LA, freeways versus subways, which really explains how different these two places are and how you can't spend your time comparing New York and LA, and each city is wonderful and scary and frightening and challenging at the same time, but both are great places. So Confessions of a Casting Director, the book, the podcast, I would say, and certainly you can follow me at Rudin J. My Instagram is really pictures of Central Park jogging and our clients, doing stuff. So it's not, I don't do a ton, but I try to keep it really positive and pretty with the park.
That's perfect. We will put links to all that stuff below. And once again, thank you.
Great.
And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Thank
Thanks.
you. We're gonna work on this weird project. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, that was awesome.
Good interview. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
really good job. I tell you, you asked one question, but it was probably the most eloquent, best question that could have been asked. And I appreciate that. But what I honestly will thank you for is reiterating that. I think I talked for like 5 minutes and didn't ask a question. She's like,
That's all right.
I don't know. But I mean, I was curious about like de-aging people's faces and what that means. But I guess it comes into the story. Like, do you need them to be old? Whatever.
Okay, like that's something beyond just like if you're going to have a character who's already appeared in something show up younger, it's like, well, it's going to be played by
I mean,
that person de-aged or whatever.
Yeah. Why would you have an older character playing a younger character unless they needed to be older eventually, I guess? Or they have, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, so Jen Rudin picked my idea, which is very, very smart of her, which is good.
Sure.
Now we're going to get into monster body in a well that gives powers in its proximity. I think that's a cool idea. So let's kind of work on this for a little bit. Dylan, if you have like a doc you want to bring up, so we can start working on this, since we no longer have the marker board behind us.
The whiteboard's on vacation.
I tell you, it didn't. It turns out PodTV owned that marker board, and we could not get a contract rewritten for that thing. So
we didn't have contracts originally, so there was.
Well, apparently the marker board did, and that's where we went wrong.
Backs.
The marker board had more compliments than anything else that we did. And we're like, I like the marker board. I'm like, whatever. All right, we're gonna work on this thing. Now I like the idea of a person just finding this power. How do you think? So I guess the beginning doesn't really matter. This is a person walking in the woods. Now, what do you think is a way that we can show this person gaining a power? Like, what is an easy way? Say you're walking around and you just get a power. Like, how do you think that power would manifest itself?
Well, I think we need to figure out what power this creature gives.
Yeah.
Because I think if we can definitely kind of target it towards something that has either like a physical appearance-based change or some other method of like alerting the viewer that it's happening. Now, were you seeing it giving people like Superman style, like super strength, like flying brick powers, or what were you feeling?
That's kind of what I thought at first, was that it would give. It would give like a select amount of powers, because I think that the funny thing that I have in this is, say that you get something that gives you the ability to be Superman.
Yeah.
Now, for you to do anything, you have to be in proximity of somebody else who all of a sudden would just get the powers of Superman too. So I like that. So let's just say, for sake of argument, right now we'll stick to Superman powers, which is pretty much everything.
Sure.
But you wouldn't know that, because there has to be a montage of you trying powers similar to Shazam, but funnier and in the woods.
It could be.
So I would assume. Oh, good.
Well, if we want them to discover they have like something weird is going on, they could fall into the hole and then start hovering, and be like, and then they look down and they're like, "What the hell is that? What the hell am I doing?"
So what if I like that idea? Now, what if they have maybe a power right before that maybe freaks them out, and makes them run so they fall into the hole? Like I was thinking, like, so say they have like I guess depending on the proximity of this monster, the powers start forming themselves, right? So in the biggest ring around, you would just maybe obtain strength.
Okay.
So like as you're walking, you're like maybe touching things, and you grab something and you just like shatter a tree, and you're like, what is that, right? And I was trying to think of a way to give yourself kind of a scare, because I guess my initial thought was like, okay, so you smash this tree and you're like, what's going on here? Then you can like, you get super hearing and you hear something from not too far away, or super sight, something that would make you get kind of scared and trip and fall into that hole. And I like the hover idea.
I like the idea of them somehow getting super senses and getting kind of like getting a little like sensory overload.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to get someone running. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Because they're freaking out. They're like, I got to get back to wherever my car is or
Yeah.
whatever. Because I'm probably tripping. I'm
Does
tripping.
does it give specific powers, or does it simply enhance the human body that we write off as giving powers? Better hearing, better strength,
Better
and then
taste.
as you get closer, it start as you get closer to the body, it starts giving you more fantastical stuff like flight.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. So, closer someone gets to the monster body, the more enhanced, and I'm using quotation marks,
Yeah,
they get.
yeah. Because like at first
Um,
you're like a little bit stronger. Your hearing's better. Your sight's better. And then when you get closer, you're like, I think I might be able to fly.
yeah. As you get
And then
closer, yeah, they become more fantastic.
yeah, I'm into that. I think that's cool. Um, and then at some point they got to figure out that it is in proximity of this hole, right? Which means most likely they're going to run away first, and the powers kind of stop, and it would make them kind of want to go back into that area to see, or
We could do something like that. I like the idea of them stumbling onto it,
yeah,
thinking something weird is going on, turning around and like going to a doctor. Something makes them go back, and as they get closer to the source of it,
maybe they drop their bag or something.
they either yeah, okay. Yeah. I like that better than someone being like, "You should go back and take a look."
Yeah,
But
because I'm like, no.
if they're not in control of their powers and they're like walking towards the creature, their strength could be getting more where they are like moving faster and they're like,
Yeah,
"Whoa." And that's how they kind of like trip and stumble into the hole
yeah,
itself.
that's cool. They actually run past the backpack. They can see it, but the closer they get, the faster they're
Yeah.
walking, and they'll run past it and they go, wait. Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Okay. So, um I'm just
So
I'm
that's
just I'm just taking notes right now.
yeah, but make sure we take good notes so that we go back and we're like, I
Yes.
wonder what this meant. Why are they in Machu Picchu?
Yeah, right. Someone walking in the woods notices their senses are getting stronger. They
Yep.
turn around and go see a doctor, dropping their bag in the process. Everything seems fine. They
Mhm.
go back to the woods to find their bag.
Yeah.
Um, as they get closer, they notice their senses getting uh stronger. Then they start running faster because they can't control the super speed yet. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's cool.
yeah.
Um, and
They
that
or somehow stumble
yeah. And I mean,
into the
they're
hole.
freaking out. They're in the sensory overload.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, then they hover over this
monster body.
monster slash alien body.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you do if you fall into a hole hovering over top of a monster body?
Uh, I mean, I would do, your kinda like superhero experimentation stuff where you test the limits of it,
Right. So
and then I would start
do you think oh sorry.
testing once I kinda realized what was going on, I would see if taking only a piece of the body with me allowed me to carry the powers with me.
See, that's kind of what I was thinking. So at first, like when you hover, you would probably either slowly sink down or fly out, which would make you probably test the hole itself, right? Like
Yeah.
jumping over the hole, flying over the hole, and then you're gonna think like, "Oh, I have powers." So you
Mhm.
go to fly away. Except once you hit the right radius, you just fall.
Yeah.
So then you realize it's got something to do with the hole or that thing.
Yeah.
So you
I
take the
like
thing
yeah.
and you wear it like a backpack.
Okay. Does taking the body with you bring the powers along?
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, it does.
Does chopping a piece off and taking the piece with you bring the powers along?
Yeah, I think that's the majority of the second act of this is
Kind of.
so if they think, okay, this body gives me powers.
Mhm.
So if they're super fast or super strong, which means they can run around people with this body on,
Mhm.
just wearing it like a backpack. But at some point they'll be like, I don't want to carry this body with me. What is it?
Yeah. I gotta
Is it
find
the
out what
head?
this is.
Right. Is it the head? Is it the
Mhm.
heart or whatever? And I guess we're going to need some kind of problems that are going to happen here.
Yeah.
Now, I would assume that he's going to want to do bad stuff first. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people become like a hero. Let's say this person is going to become a villain, because I like the idea of maybe them trying to rob a bank. But since everyone else has powers, nothing happens. You know, like he's like, oh, well, I'm super strong and super fast. I'll just go rob this bank. But because everyone has it, technically no one has it.
Yeah. Well, they're all able to do the same things he can,
Right.
which causes confusion. But then he realizes I can't make a move because now I am outnumbered on a super level.
Right.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah. And then also, I kind of had this idea as we were speaking that there is a superhero that wants to do good, but needs to just stay around this person. You know,
We're
because,
this is a world where this is a superhero setting.
well, no,
Okay.
but once somebody sees that this person has powers,
Okay.
and then maybe somebody in the bank, they realize, hey, when this person was around, I was like real strong. Maybe I
Yeah.
should carry this person with me as I have powers.
Yeah. Or they're the only one to really notice that the guy's backpack is not a backpack, but something weird. And
Yeah.
so they deduce the power radius thing and find the main character and are like, hey, give me a piece of that, or I'm gonna tell everybody what you're doing.
Yeah. And we can even have like a scene. I almost like the idea of like people that are looking for this,
Hmm.
and if they know
Okay.
that this person has this somewhere, they just go like outside of house to house, just jumping to see like, is this the house that gives me powers? You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Uh Team of people hunting down the body and just seeing if they randomly gain powers when outside townhouses.
yeah. All right. So we don't want to get too much into this because we're probably going to save this idea for one of our twitching up streams.
Yeah.
So what do you think a good ending for something like this would be? Like if we had to get to the end, um,
Well, I think it's important to figure out the nature of the monster to know where we should take this. Is it an
oh,
alien? Is it a genetic experiment? Is it
well,
extra dimensional? Like I don't
maybe we
know
do.
that I don't know that an ending is I don't know that I can think of an ending without knowing what this thing is
I'm not sure if
on
that.
some level.
I'm not sure if that fully matters. Like, all right, say me and you were walking around the woods and we found this weird body in a hole that gave us powers.
Mhm.
What would we do? Like, we're not going to do research to find out where this thing came from. We wouldn't know if it's an alien unless we turn it in. And if we turn it in, we
Right.
would lose our powers.
Yeah.
So I
I'd
think a
be
lot of the experiment.
curious at least. Like,
Well, yeah, 100%. I'd be curious too. Maybe we start like our own 4chan, trying to figure out like what it is. But most of it, I think, is figuring out what part of the body gives the power, and then that person realizing that even though they have this power, like it doesn't really do anything for them because it gives everybody else the same power when they're around. Um,
it lets you fly when you have it on as a backpack, so that's kind of neat.
that is pretty dope. And I guess if we wanted to go horror ending, it would be somebody thinking that that person is the power, and then them killing that person, trying to find out what part of the person gives the power. But they would obviously see that it's the backpack, so it doesn't really.
I don't.
Because
Yeah, I don't. I.
say like you're super strong, you could throw that
Mhm.
thing into space,
Yeah.
so then you could get rid of it before anything else happened.
Yeah.
So, um,
I'm seeing some sort of horror thing where it becomes like grafted onto someone and starts changing them.
oh, like he
It
doesn't want
starts
anybody to.
changing them.
Yeah,
Like,
he doesn't want anybody to steal it, so he like maybe puts it on his skin.
I was thinking more like this thing is some sort of parasite, and it eventually turns you into something that also gives power. It turns you into one of it.
I like that. I think that there's maybe a couple cool scenes we could put in between that. Like say it's not a parasite, but once it's inside of you, it will
Mhm.
take over, right? So say that at first he's like, I don't want anybody to steal this from me. So maybe they kind of like put it on, like they tape it to their back or something so that it's not easily. And then maybe they know that they're going to get arrested for something. So maybe they put whatever piece it is inside of their body.
They like eat it. They eat part of it.
Or a prison purse. Or they cut open their back and slide it in there and sew it up. But either way, they're like, okay, if I go into prison, I'll have this power, you know.
It just starts bonding with him. Like,
okay, cool.
Like he like tries to. He's got it on as a backpack for a long time, and he reaches to try and take the arm off, and he looks, and it's like, and you got the strands in between,
right, cool.
and he's like, ah, and then he realizes it is like on his back.
Yeah, all right, that's cool. I'm into that. That actually saves a lot of weird writing, but I think that's a cool place to stop for right here. So we have this thing that's gonna be grafted onto a person, and then we got to figure out how to get it off while they have these powers and whatever. So I think that's a really cool thing for us to work on for our Twitching Upstream show. So if you want to see those things, obviously we do those live every Tuesday on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and all that other cool stuff. Want to give a sincere shout out to Jen Rudin for being such a cool guest and talking a lot about some amazing projects. That was really, really great. I want to thank all of our friends who help keep the show going. You got Jess Newman, you got Sarah Tkachuk, you got Tanya Sheck, our East Coast friends. You got some other people that keep us moving, like Mr. Michael Colby and all the fun that he gives us on Facebook Messenger and our one email. I don't know why I keep sending that email in. It's weird. But also, thanks to Jeff Waskin and Scott Curtis from Behind the Bits. Thank you to my best friend Dylan for putting up with my perfect voice. It's got to be hard for him. If you want to help us out some more, you can always go over to Patreon, check that out, where Dylan gives me ideas to draw for people in crayon, and then I draw for them with his descriptions. We're going to start putting some weird stuff up on Patreon, so please go check it out. If you want to see anything else, open up whatever you got and type in Some Nobodies. I bet you'll find something that we did. But until next time, folks, Dylan, you got anything to say, friend?
Nah.
Love it, buddy. I love it. All right, everybody, drink some water. Until next time, I have been Zach. He has been Dylan. And you've been great. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, everybody.